Alright, so I'm gonna throw this little bit of footage in with one of these videos here. I don't know which one yet, but I recently just had a good friend of mine pass away, who is also in the painting automotive industry. He was actually working at a place that I get all of my House of Color paint. He's the one that hooked me up with a lot of the House of Color stuff, so he was really close to me and a lot of people in the industry around my area. So there's a few of us that are really good friends with him that are going to get together on one day before his services. We've got a couple mini hoods and an old paint gun of his that we're actually going to be painting. I think the gun that they have, that is already getting started on. I've actually got one of the mini hoods with me right now. I want to show you guys what I'm talking about. It's a really small hood made out of aluminum. I'm pretty sure it's aluminum, and they come pre-powder coated in white. You can scuff these and shoot them and do artwork on them, but I've already got it scuffed with the red Scotch-Brite, and then I 320'd it real quick. Because I'm going to end up sealing this because I'm completely changing the color. So I'm going to seal it with some gray sealer, and I'm going to put just a silver base over it. So nothing too crazy right now. I'm pretty much just getting this prepped because we're going to get together at my shop, and we're going to start designing. We're going to put graphics all over these, using a lot of candies, a lot of bright colors, a lot of House of Color paint. So I'm simply just getting this ready right now, so when everybody that comes over, we can start laying tape. It'll be dry so we can start laying tape. So this is going to be thrown in there, like I said. So we're going to get this thing sealed up and get some base coat on it real quick. So I want to show you guys the process of that. It's already been cleaned. It's already been final wax and grease. It's already been tacked off. Simply just ready to pull the trigger with some sealer in it and get some color on this thing real quick. Alright, so that's it. That's just the sealer right now. We're going to let this probably flash off for probably a good 5 to 6 minutes probably. With these, anything you're painting, make sure you wrap around your edges really well. Make sure everything's nice and covered. I just put a really light coat of gray sealer on, not too crazy. And then we're going to go ahead and throw some silver base on here. So we're going to let this sit up for about 6 minutes or so, let it flash off, come back in here, put a couple coats of silver on. Alright, so it's nice and flashed off. I've already pre-tacked it. Anything you guys do, I don't know if I've explained this before, but whether it's around a sealer, around a base, or around a mid coat, I always tack off between coats. There's sometimes that I don't, and that's when I'm putting on more than one coat of base. A lot of times I won't just tack off. I'll just let it dry and flash and then put another coat on. But you got to look at what it's turning out to be, whether or not if you need it tacked off or not. If it looks like there's a lot of overspray that kind of hit, that needs to be tacked off, let it dry, let it flash, come back in with the tack rad, tack it, and then go for your next coat. I just want to kind of explain that to you. Every round of paint I do, I tack off, besides clear, of course, because once you put clear on, it's wet and tacky, you can't tack it off anymore. That's just common sense, but just want to show you guys and tell you guys what I have there. It's just a coarse metallic with a little bit of pearl that I had left over from a previous job, and I just mix the two together. There's nothing really special about it, so it should have a little bit more bling in it than normal, just like normal regular silver. It's just a coarse silver. It's nothing, like I said, nothing too crazy. But we're gonna put a couple coats on until this covers. It should cover pretty quick. And like I said, make sure your edges are wrapped around. Make sure you're getting to the back side. Make sure everything's pretty well covered before you walk out and say you're done and go on to the next step. So we're just going to quickly putting base on this, putting the silver on it, letting it sit and flash off. I'm not going to clear it because, like I said, we're going to be laying tape on this thing. We're going to be putting graphics and artwork, and this thing's just going to get covered up with paint. So there's no point clearing it after I put the base on, after I put the silver on, because we're just going to be putting more on it. So I'm just going to let it sit for a few days until it's ready for us to come in and start laying tape, because it's going to be a few days before we get together at my place to do this. So I just want to show you guys this little process, because I think these, we got two of these mini hoods, like I said, so I think they're going to come out really, really cool. And it's something that we're going to be taking to the funeral home and giving them. And I'm sure his wife and his mom's probably going to take one of each. So it's just something cool that we're doing for him, because, you know, if it was me, this is something that I would want my friends to do for me, because I am, pretty big in the industry. So it's just something cool. I really wish we would have got like his casket and just had time to just tape off his, put graphics all over his casket. That would be really cool, but we just don't have that kind of time. So, and I don't think his family's willing to let us do that. I think they just want to, have the casket as is. So we're doing this in return just to show our appreciation for what he's done for us and being a friend. So yeah, just gonna take you guys through this little trip. Like I said, it's gonna be kind of smooshed in with another video here, so hopefully you guys like it. So here we go. We're gonna put 2 coats of base on this. right, so we're gonna let this flash off. Take a flashlight to it, make sure it's covered in the dark, and then let it sit and dry, and just let it do its thing. We're not in a hurry right now. Like, so we got a couple days before we're all gonna get together and start putting tape and more paint on this thing. So I always have been told, and I've always done it this way. If you're wondering whether how fast you can top coat just regular base coat with clear, with it just sitting, I've been told 30 days. After 30 days, you either got to put an adhesion promoter on top of the base coat, or you got to scuff it and then put more paint over top of it. That's just what I've always been told. I try not to take it that far. I've let I've let base coat sit for 3 weeks at the most, just sitting, and then I'll tack it off, clean it, and then I'll put tape down or whatever with graphics. Because sometimes when you're doing these big projects, a lot of people don't understand that you do have windows of times for each step of each process. Like sealer, if you wait more than 24 hours, you actually have to scuff the sealer back down and put more sealer or put base coat over it, depending if you go through or not, what you sand it with. And then base coat, like I said, I've been told 30 days. I don't really trust that. I always try to do the most at 3 weeks. A lot of the bigger things like this, like the truck we're doing, stuff like that, that's really big, that takes a long time to tape off. And you're putting multiple colors down, you put multiple graphics down, that you're waiting that long before you put clear coat or you put another top coat over top of it. A lot of guys will use intercoat and clear in between graphics to kind of bury them a little bit, and then go back through and scuff the intercoat and go through the next step. But I've never had issues with it so far. So if you're wondering that's kind of like the time frame that I've always used for myself is sealer, no more than 24 hours. If you do, you got to scuff it and apply more sealer or base coat. And then with base coat, I always, like I said, 3 weeks is the most I've done. Been told 30 days, but if one of you guys want to test that theory out and try to go over 30 days and see if you can top coat it and see if it works, go for it. But yeah, that's a little bit of information for some of you guys that don't understand that you do have a time limit, a window to get this stuff top coated with either more paint or a clear coat. And then obviously if you clear it and you bake it or you let it sit until it's fully dry, depending on what type of clear you have, follow your tech sheet because everyone's different. But if I bake something at 145, 150 degrees clear coat wise, I usually come in within 12 hours. I can sand on it, I can tape on it, I can do all that stuff. But if I'm doing something at home where I don't bake it and it just sits at about 70, 75 degrees, I usually wait 4 or 5 days before I come back in and sand it down or buff it or anything like that. So the windows are a lot longer if you don't have an actual heated cycle paint booth and you're doing stuff at home and it's colder out, it's not summertime. Usually summertime I can wait probably a day and a half until I come back out and sand that clear. But just a little bit of information for you guys that don't understand that type of stuff, because there are windows to everything you put on as far as chemical wise goes. So if you guys didn't know, that's kind of the rule of thumb I follow. So I'm gonna let this stuff dry and sit, and then next time you guys see this, we'll be laying graphics and planing all that stuff out. So see you guys then. So I'm gonna put you guys on a time lapse here while I pinstripe these graphics here in yellow. Pinstriping I'm still kind of getting used to. It's something that I just picked up. A lot of these graphics like this, I think it's really important to at least add some type of pinstripe to it. It just kind of finishes it off. And hand pinstriping is just one of those art forms that's you can't beat with a really nice outlined graphic and hand pinstripe. So yeah, just enjoy. So we're in the booth in here, got it all cleaned off, tacked off. We're gonna be clear coating this. Got some House of Color Rocket Clear is what they call it. It's their fast air drying clear. I personally haven't used it. I've always used their either their Show Clear or their UC21 Clear, the high build stuff, the Barry artwork and stuff like that. So I've never used a Rocket Clear, so this will be a first time for me. I've got the booth air turned down as far as the heat goes, because like I said, this stuff is supposed to dry, like air dry in like 20-30 minutes. So I'm really curious to see just how much of a buildup it has to it, because a lot of fast drying air clears, especially in the collision industry, they're really thin. You know, you got to put like 3 or 4 coats of clear on it just to get it to do its thing, because a lot of times when you bake it, if you only put 2 coats on it, it'll actually end up dying back or shrinking real bad, and it just loses its gloss at that point, and they just never really look good. So I will always try to stay clear from them, but this is the House of Color Rocket Clear, so I'm really curious to see how well it does on a semi-big. You never want to use this stuff on like a full bumper or anything like that, because I mean, unless you move when you clear stuff, this stuff will end up drying right in front of your eyes on a lot of this stuff. So I'm really curious. So we're gonna get some couple coats on this thing, and I'll show you guys afterwards what it looks like. pretty much already kind of sitting up to where you can actually touch it. It's still really tacky, but it's been 10-15 minutes. You know, the booth is at 65 degrees, so yeah, this stuff will probably be almost pretty much dry within 30-35 minutes. I ended up having a little bit extra clear in my cup, so after the second coat, I hit it really fast again with like a third, like a half a coat is what we call it. It's not really a third coat, so you know, it's gonna take a little bit longer to set up. But other than that, yeah, I'm gonna probably put 100 degrees on it. I don't want to fully bake it since it is really fast stuff, but yeah, I'm gonna let it bake, and then I'll either sand it back down and re-clear it, or I'll try to buff all the dirt out of it. The dirt is just from all the layers of paint, because there's textures and stuff inside of it, so you get paint build up and it looks like dirt when you clear it, so it's not a big deal. So I'll either sand it back down and re-clear it or buff it. So thanks for watching. We'll do it again. All right, never mind. Said I was done. I lied. Baked it for about 20 minutes at 120 degrees, which isn't much, but it's enough for this rocket clear for it to actually get it dry enough to where you can sand it back down. So I've been sanded back down. My goal was just to re-clear it, because when you do all these textures in here, especially like this stuff that kind of separates the paint, you get a lot of, it looks like dirt, like when you clear something and then you get dirt, little dirt specks in it. That's what it looks like, but it's just paint buildup in those certain areas. So I wanted to sand all that stuff back down, and then I had a bright idea of putting some, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like a blue pearl, bluish green pearl, kind of like I seen it that Nightmare on Nightmare Before Christmas helmet. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that video of what I did at the very end before I final cleared it. I put a couple of coats of pearl on it, and it just gives it that little shimmer out in the sun of that little bit of hue color. So I'm gonna put a couple coats on this thing, and I'll show you guys what it looks like after it's cleared.